All right, good afternoon and welcome to the Clayton County Library System Virtual Graphic Novel Club. My name is Erica.
And I'm Roland.
And today, on this day after 4th of July, we will be discussing Mr.
Steve Rogers.
Yeah, Mr. Steve Rogers. I guess you could call him, I don't know if we call him or Neymar, the face of Marvel. I believe Neymar was first, but I believe he's more popular. Captain America is more popular. But all right, so we're going to jump right in and we're going to keep this brief today. So we're not going to actually discuss a lot of Steve's history after the 80s. So we're not going to go into a lot of what you kind of sort of see in the 2000s and elsewhere. But to keep it brief, and by brief, we mean under an hour. So we're going to jump right in. All right, Captain America debuted in March of 1941 with Captain America #1. Created by writers Joe Simon and artist Jack Kirby for Timely Comics. Timely would later become Marvel Comics. Just a little history of comics for you there. The character's alter ego is Steve Rogers, a puny kid from Brooklyn, New York. And he wanted to serve his country, but he could not pass the Army's physical requirements for enlisting. He was discouraged, but he did not lose hope, and he volunteered for a top secret initiative called the Super Soldier Project. Professor Abraham Erskine, a pioneer in developing the super soldier for the United States, saw potential in Rogers and whisked him into the Project Rebirth. The professor's bold experiment in enhancing the human body to its peak powers. That made Steve muscular, tall, and possessed extraordinary strength and agility. The former 90-pound weakling watched in horror as a Nazi spy who had infiltrated the secret bunker, shot and killed Erskine, and ensuring that Rogers would be the last of his kind. I think he took out the machine too, yeah. So yeah, he blew up the machine and everything. Steve immediately becomes Captain America. He dons this suit here, as you can see in this issue here on the left, him knocking out Adolf Hitler there. It's the red, white, and blue costume that he's most famously known for. It has the matching stars and stripes shield, and Steve joins the US Army and acquires a kid sidekick, a mascot by the name of Bucky Barnes. The early stories told by Simon and Kirby were simple, yet had weird villains such as the Hunchback of Hollywood, the Black Toad, and Ivan the Terrible. His main nemesis, though, was the Red Skull, who was a seemingly invincible Nazi whose face was like a crimson skull. These stories were filled with action and they were fast-paced, and it was so successful that Captain America even had its own fan club called the Sentinels of Liberty. But in December of 1941, when Pearl Harbor attack happened, Captain America responded in the comics. So the one you see there with him knocking out Hitler, that was after 1940, December, after Pearl Harbor. And so he and Bucky began to face actual Axis powers. So that meant Hitler, the Japanese, Mussolini, they were actually fighting these, the Axis powers in their comic books. Timely Comics lost Captain America's creators, though, of Simon and Kirby to DC after only 10 issues. But a young novice named Stan Lee, little known guy there, took over and continued Cap's story. But unfortunately, around 1944, well, not unfortunately, because the war did eventually end, which was a good thing. But when World War II ended, the wartime heroes that were created around this time sort of faded. Captain America and Bucky were put on ice. Their stories set in the war's final days. The pair attempt to defuse a bomb on a drone aircraft, but the plane explodes over the frigid North Atlantic, sparking a complicated chain of events that ends up with Bucky missing and Rogers floating in the water, seemingly dead. In 1950s, the comics turned to more sci-fi and horror genres. And so Timely then around this time became Marvel Comics, but they could not compete with DC heroes. American Comics, Captain America ended with issue number 73, which was in July 1949. The series was canceled after 2 issues of a title called Captain America Weird Tales. Barely 4 years later, though, Captain America returned in Young Men number 24 in 1953, and Captain America comic resumed printing in May 1954. The book, which boasted Captain America Commie Smasher, that is a derogatory term now, but that was the name of the book at the time, and as a subtitle was apparent product of the McCarthy era. They were trying to capitalize on that, but the public did not warm to it, and Captain America series was canceled for a second time in September of 1954. Marvel Comics had a big comeback in 1960s, though. Jack Kirby returned to Marvel, and Stan Lee began creating new comics with exciting characters. The Fantastic Four came in 1961, followed by The Amazing Spider-Man in 1962. And these brought fresh new heroes. In Avengers number 4 in 1964, it was revealed that Steve Rogers had not died in the freezing waters of the North Atlantic. He had been trapped in ice and preserved in suspended animation. The newly formed Avengers found Rogers, thawing his body, and they revive him. There's a little bit more to that story that we'll get into later with another character that we'll cover. Captain America immediately joins the Avengers, and he becomes sort of the elder statesman amongst them. Within a year of his revival, he graduated to his own strip in Tales of the Suspense, which he shared with Iron Man, as well as becoming an icon again. But unfortunately, he was seen sort of as a hero of past, so I think readers in the 60s didn't warm to him as much. But they sold, and so they kept, but they were telling stories of war past, so it wasn't anything current and new, unless he was with the Avengers. He kept an interested audience, but not like some of the new heroes, so he wasn't selling as much as they were. By 1970, a young writer named Steve Englehart took Captain America into deeper, darker waters. So kind of in response to what was going on in the 70s, both Lee and Kirby had left Marvel by this time, and Marvel was pumping in some new blood into their main projects. I think we've covered this in some of our coverage of like Thor, X-Men, because X-Men had been canceled by this time. So these young guys were pumping in fresh blood, and Englehart liked to reference real life events like Watergate. So he gave Captain America a view of how corrupt politics and America had become. And it made him sickened to see what this betrayal of his country was. So Roger quits in disgust and briefly becomes a character called Nomad before his innate patriotism gets the better of him, and he goes back to being Captain America. Kirby returns to Captain America both as a writer and an artist in 1975, and he moved the title away from the social commentary that Englehart had taken, and so he goes back to kind of telling the heroic stories that we all like about Captain America. A series of writers shepherd Captain America into the 1980s after Kirby left. He didn't leave again, but he started doing other projects. You had Mark Grindelwald, who began a decade-long tenure on the book. Grindelwald focused on superheroes at the expense of Rogers, who was a civilian persona. He also is the one who introduces Diamondback, who is a sometimes villain who evokes shades of Catwoman as a romantic interest. That was their response. And that's Captain America up into the 1980s. He goes on to do some great things, though.
All right, and so hey, I'm gonna show you something, because later on, go back to that last slide that you had. If you notice this first is Captain America #1, March #1. Remember, this is before So in this cover, he's slapping Hitler, right?
Yeah.
Wait till later. I'm gonna point out another
Cover.
Another cover.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
All right.
So our first ally of Captain America is none other than Falcon, aka Sam Wilson, whose first appearance was Captain America number 117 in September of 1969. In 1969, Stan Lee and artist Gene Colan introduced Sam Wilson in Captain America number 117. Artist Gene Colan had the idea for the Falcon partly as a response to the civil rights movement, and he stands out as an empowering character. Sam is originally from the neighborhood of Harlem in New York City and was raised by his minister father, Paul, and stay-at-home mom, Darlene. His father was killed in front of his son. Sam's mother was later killed during a mugging, leaving him alone to raise his brother and sister. Now, Sam raised his siblings, but growing up, he had a talent for communicating with birds. Eventually, his world travels brought him to a falcon named Redwing, who would become more friend than a pet. In that first issue with Captain America, Sam and his falcon Redwing find out there is a group of Nazis on the island of exile, enslaving indigenous tribes on that island. These Nazis are under the leadership of Red Skull. Falcon and Captain America team up to bring down the Red Skull. Once they freed the indigenous tribes, Captain America encourages Sam to take up the superhero name of Falcon and continue to help others. Captain did not want him as a sidekick, but as a partner. The series was called Captain America and the Falcon. He worked with Captain America and joined other teams such as the Defenders and the Avengers. Together, Falcon and Captain America tackled everything from racism and poverty to supervillains like Stoneface, the Great Gargoyle, Hydra, and the Red Skull. When Captain America needed to choose a replacement, Sam was the man he chose, and he held the shield and identity for several years until Steve could retake the job. There's probably no other man in the world Steve trusts more, and that's the Falcon, aka Sam Wilson.
All right. And next on our list is William Bucky Barnes. His first appearance was as Bucky in Captain America #1 in March 1941. His next appearance would be as Winter Soldier in November 2004 in Captain America Volume 5. And then again, he has another change as Captain America Volume 5, number 34 in January 2008. He becomes Captain America. So the tough kid who spent his whole life on army bases, James Buchanan, Bucky Barnes, proved himself strong enough to take the role as Captain America's sidekick during World War II. The pair fought the Axis powers throughout the big one until Bucky perished in a scheme orchestrated by the original Baron Zemo. For years, Captain America believed his partner dead, but the Russians had came upon Barnes's body in the ocean and turned the amnesiac into a perfect killing machine. Upon proving challenging to control, the Russians decided to put him in cryo-freeze between missions, giving birth to the legendary Winter Soldier. Eventually, Captain America came in contact with the Winter Soldier, recognizing his partner, and used a cracked cosmic cube to return his friend's memories.
Tesseract.
Oh.
What's the cosmic cube?
Oh, it is. The Tesseract. Okay. Bucky took over for Steve's place briefly in the late 2000s as Captain America after Steve, quote unquote, died. And the only difference between this one, I see what they did in MCU where they tried to mesh this character into just this best friend. They kind of aged him up.
Yeah, I was gonna say they made it so that he was not a younger guy, but more or less
like a peer.
Like they're the same age, but you know he's got more musculature. He's a bigger dude than his homeboy.
Yeah.
So, you know, he ends up talking like, "Come on, I got you."
Yeah.
You know.
And but he was a kid in the comics, like truly a kid, like.
Truly a kid.
And that's Bucky Barnes.
All right. So next up, we have Colonel John Jameson, aka the Man Wolf, His first appearance was Amazing Spider-Man #1, December '62, just as Colonel John Jameson. And he shows up again in Amazing Spider-Man #124 in June of '73, a few months after I was born, as Manwood.
Yeah.
Okay, so Colonel Jameson was sent, basically he was an astronaut, and he was sent on a secret mission to the moon where he encountered a glittering red gemstone while they were doing soil samples, and he decided to bring it back. He made it in, he felt like it was a nice, nice stone. And basically he made it into a pendant to wear around his neck. It just so happened that on the first night of the full moon after his return, the luminescence reacted with the charm and caused him to transform into a wolf-like humanoid creature. John Jameson joined the support staff for the Avengers as Captain America's pilot using the call sign Skywolf. Jameson left Captain America's employ due to his attraction to Cap's then girlfriend, Diamondback. Now, it should be stated that John Jameson basically is one of the characters that it shows up in Spider-Man, just like Morbius. And he's kind of
that horror,
one of those horror type characters. But at the same time, they were trying to bring in a werewolf, but you know they already had werewolf by night. So this was more like a cosmic power werewolf. All right, so now Jameson hopes to someday return to a more adventurous life, but for now he is living simply as a social worker. He recently expressed romantic interest in the She-Hulk and gave her his Jupiter suit after a few modifications by Reed Richards to help her manage her out of control strength. Currently, to end the crusade to discover Peter Parker, wait a minute.
Currently he's
currently in a crusade to discover
Peter Parker,
who has tricked out Spider-Man's identity, and John's father, and he is basically tricked his father into believing his son is secretly Spider-Man. Now
that's as a favor, right?
John Jameson's dad is
Joe Jonah
Jameson. Is head of the what's the name of the Daily Bugle? I just want to call it the Daily Planet. That's Superman. But yeah, so John Jameson is also the astronaut son of J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man.
JJ.
Yes.
He has a complicated history with his dad. All right, next on our list is Miss Sharon Carter. I didn't change that. Woo, meant to. Okay, Sharon Carter's first appearance is in Tales of Suspense, number 75 in December of 1965. It worked out great because I actually wanted to do this one, so it works out great. Okay, so Sharon Carter is the daughter of Harrison and Amanda Carter, two wealthy Virginians, and the niece of Margaret Peggy Carter, a heroic freedom fighter during World War II, who had shared many adventures with the great hero Captain America before his supposed death at the end of the war. When Peggy returned home needing hospitalization from PTSD, she told her niece the many stories about Captain America. Sharon grew up and decided to become an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. On her first major assignment, Sharon Carter, codename Agent 13, was chosen to pick up a cylinder containing a powerful explosive called Inferno 42 from a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who had stolen it from them. That is not me being funny. That is the name of the group, them. The governing body of the subversion organization of Hydra. Gosh, I tell you, Stan Lee just keeps it simple. By coincidence, though, Captain America, in his secret identity of Steve Rogers, saw Carter on her way to receive the cylinder and was struck by her close resemblance to her Aunt Peggy. However, Rogers had no idea who Sharon Carter was, and having known Peggy only by her cover identity. Captain America continued to cross paths with Carter as the two adventured, only knowing her as Agent 13. On one adventure, Captain America rescued her from a subversive group called AIM. The two fell deeply in love with with each other. I was like, that made no sense. Okay, after a later assignment bringing down the Nazi Red Skull's fourth sleeper robot, Carter was allowed by S.H.I.E.L.D. to reveal her secret identity to Captain America. The two became involved and remained allies for many subsequent missions. She and Captain America would remain allies for years to come, though. After the Civil War, though, Sharon was brainwashed by Dr. Faustus and Red Skull into killing Captain America. And I put that in quotations, killing. After killing him, she found out she was pregnant by him. She was taken by Faust and Red Skull. While fighting the hypnosis, Faust and Red Skull wanted to use her baby for their evil plan, but Sharon escaped. She was kidnapped eventually, though, by Red Skull's daughter, Sin. She kidnapped Red Skull's daughter, Sin, and held her hostage to get her needed answers. Sin eventually got loose and stabbed Sharon in the stomach, making her lose the baby. Eventually, though, she discovered the truth that she did not kill Steve, but pretty much displaced him in time. Sharon gained assistance of Hank Pym and Reed Richards to bring him back, though, leading to her being captured by Norman Osborn and the Red Skull. This is that Secret Invasion storyline. And after being saved by Captain America and the Avengers, Sharon helped him defeat the Skull and his aid forces. They rekindled their romance, and that is Sharon Carter. They're on again, off again all the time. Well, actually, they're not really on again, off again. They have the life of, like if you were dating a spy, you're not settling down roots. They're fine with that. I'll do Diamondback also. Let's go. And Steve's other love of his life is a woman named Diamondback. Her first appearance was in Captain America number 310 in October of 1985. Rachel Leighton, right? Leighton? Because I was like, I pronounced that Lee and then tell but okay, Leighton. She was born in Austin, Texas. So she's a Southern girl. Well, so is Sharon. She's from Virginia, so all right. However, she spent her formative years in the Lower East Side of New York City. She had two brothers that joined a gang run by a man named Bing. I say that twice. Upon claiming she would do anything to join the crew, Rachel was beaten up and sexually assaulted by Bing, who then later became the costume mercenary Crossbones sometime later.
Who was in all the Avengers movies. The Captain America movie, he's the one that had the face shield that came down.
Yeah, that's him.
Yep.
You know, he only pops up, but they don't continue his story because I know he's a major. That was in Civil War, wasn't it?
I can't. Which one did they introduce Black Panther?
Civil War.
Yeah,
he blew himself up. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, he was not a nice man.
No, we could come back. He has that power to send out energy first. Something happened to him. At first, it was just like a Punisher.
Yeah, because that's what he reminded me of, the Punisher.
But they made him different.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll probably see him again. I don't know in this next round of MCU movies. Rachel later became a mercenary using the alias Diamondback, and she received training by Anaconda, one of Taskmaster's academies. She's one of the original Serpent Society members, known to be seductively sly with expertise in hand-to-hand combat, gymnastics, and throwing weaponry. Her gimmick, though, is that she has diamond-shaped projectiles at throwing them at her enemies, with each weapon being laced with either acid or explosive or poison tipped. After her first confrontation with Captain America, she was instantly smitten with him and while on assignment to find and kill MODOK. Diamondback was later assigned to take Captain America into custody by the villain Porcupine. The handover was set up so that Captain America could capture the Serpent Society. Realizing they had been set up, Diamondback threw explosives filled with diamonds at Porcupine, damaging his armored battlesuit. And sensed at the damage that was his only valuable session, the Porcupine attacked Diamondback, but was fatally injured by one of his own quills. The Serpent Society escaped and Porcupine died. Diamondback and Captain America eventually later go on their first date, aided by Rachel's friends from the Serpent Society, Asp, Black Mamba, and Anaconda. The latter ensured that the date wasn't interrupted by a range of minor villains, including Trump, Gamecock, Pound Cakes, and Jackhammer. Diamondback then battled the Avenger Black Widow, unaware that Rachel's change in affiliation and acquired a new costume. Diamondback was eventually put on trial by the Serpent Society for her consorting with the enemy. Most of the society assuming incorrectly that Diamondback had betrayed their secrets to Captain America and found her guilty of her actions. This resulted in her near execution. However, she escaped with Captain America, and Paladin's help to later be hired by Paladin to help get revenge against the against the Serpent Society.
Okay.
And
so,
that is Diamondback.
Okay, so let me say that these minor villains that they had to protect them from on their first date.
Yeah.
Sounds like a January 6th attack squad. Trump, Gamecock, Pound Cake, and Jackhammer.
Yeah.
The Proud Boys.
Yeah. I read that and I was like, these must have been some super minor characters that they had.
All right.
But I think she's dead. She's no longer in the MCU. Like, I think after the 80s, she is no more. So that is Diamondback.
All right, so next up, we have the Howling Commandos. First seen in Marvel Comics in Sergeant Fury #1, March 1963. The Howling Commandos were stationed at a military base in England to fight specialized missions. These missions were located primarily, but not exclusively, in the European theater of World War II. Eventually going as far afield as the Pacific Theater, Africa, and one each in the Middle East and on the Russian front. Sam Sawyer, U.S. Army captain, recruited select U.S. Army Rangers to his Able Company. Sawyer assigned Nick Fury the command of the 1st Attack Squad, nicknamed the Howling Commandos. The Howlers were some of the first soldiers to see Captain America in action overseas when the captain helped them to destroy a Nazi rocket research lab. They worked together so well that the Howlers were next ordered to accompany Captain America to Wakanda to discover why a Nazi invasion force had been sent there. The Howlers continued to encounter and fight alongside Captain America and Bucky several times throughout the war. The Howling Commandos later became a Delta Force C Squadron F-Team Black Ops unit known for always getting the job done no matter the circumstances or consequences.
Not the Howlers.
Yeah, if you remember the Howling Commandos, they are portrayed in the MCU in the very first Captain America movie, where he goes in to save a group of soldiers from the Hydra camp, Nazi/Hydra camp. Those soldiers that end up tagging along with him for the rest of the movie, those are the Howling Commandos. Now, what they didn't show you was Sergeant Fury being in control of them because, as you know, they kind of did some rewrites for the Marvel where they made Samuel Jackson Marvel when actually it probably should have been played by a grizzled old white man.
Actually,
but I mean, they changed the storylines in the comics. I'm just saying though, but for that time period, Sergeant Fury, matter of fact, if you look at for those of you that are following along on the slide, if you look at Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, if you look directly behind Captain America and kind of off to the left, that's Sergeant Fury before he lost his eye. That's him before he lost his eye.
Now, they could have still shown that young Sergeant Fury, because what we know from the MCU is that Fury is Fury, but
Yeah. It's the same. It's the
yeah,
same guy.
but it's not. That's his dad. This would have been his dad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like because in 1995 in Captain Marvel, they made him younger, meaning like his grizzly old dad by this time is retired. Actually, no, didn't he disappear?
I think
He went somewhere.
I think he disappeared.
Yeah, he went
Because
somewhere.
Nobody knew that. Nobody thought that the black guy was actually the son.
Yeah, he disappeared, and I can't remember where he went. But that is the Howling Commandos.
Yes, and you know I forgot the dumb dude.
Yeah.
Who was the guy with the bowler?
Yeah.
You know, he's a real popular character.
Yeah, I liked him in the movie. He also played on, he was in Arrowverse. Okay. Now this guy right here, he's gonna be a little longer than the rest of our other characters, but we cannot not talk about him because this is Captain America's main nemesis. We got the Red Skull here. His first issue was Captain America Comics #7 in August 1941 as the character Armin Zola. No.
That's Johann Smith.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Red
Okay.
Skull.
Look,
Zola
my notes are absolutely wrong there. Never mind.
Oh.
His first appearance was August 1941, but I somehow got Armin Zola on my notes, but okay. His name is Johann Smith, though. Yes, it is. Now, Johann is the son of a horse-drinking drunkard German named Hermann Schmidt, and his wife, who was reportedly a saint, Martha, who endured his abuse and beatings from her husband for years. The elder Schmidt eventually committed suicide after his wife died in childbirth. He also tried to kill the baby, little baby Johann, but the doctor saved him. Johann grew up in an orphanage and turned to thievery to survive. As a young man, Schmidt was from time to time employed by a Jewish shoekeeper and who had a daughter named Esther. Esther was the only person who treated Schmidt kindly up until that point. But he was seized by lust for Esther, and Schmidt decided to try to force himself upon her, but she rejected him. In his unthinking fury, Schmidt murdered her, though. He felt ecstatic after murdering her and letting all that rage out of him that he grew up with. Schmidt longed to for a master to show him how to achieve this power. So years later, after the Nazis came into power in Germany, Schmidt worked in a hotel where the dictator of the Germans' Third Reich, Adolf Hitler, came in one day to stay. On hearing Hitler's voice, Schmidt decided that Hitler was the master he had sought. Inspired by Hitler and declared that he would make the bellboy a perfect Nazi who would serve as his right-hand man, Schmidt eagerly agreed to do what Hitler wished. Hitler personally took over Schmidt's training. He gave Schmidt a lifelike Red Skull headmask and named him Red Skull. And the skull was answerable only to Hitler. But the skull, he took on various missions for Hitler, most of which involved the skull's specialty of spreading terror. In the early 1940s, before the United States entered World War II, Red Skull was mainly involved with the subversive activities in the United States. The United States government created a costume persona of Captain America so that there would be a costume counterpart to Red Skull. In Europe during the war, the Skull took personal command of many military actions and supervised takeovers, lootings of many cities and towns. In various cases, the Skull ordered and led to the eradication of entire populations and communities. The Skull also organized a wolf pack of submarines that preyed upon shipping worldwide, often under the Skull's command. But while the Skull always admired Hitler for his ideological visions, he was never content with being Hitler's subordinate. The Skull kidnapped and killed many of Hitler's closest advisors, eventually rose to become his second most powerful man in the Third Reich. Now Hitler could no longer effectively control Skull. and came to fear him, especially since Skull had made little secret about his ambition to supplant Hitler one day. After the renowned military officer Baron Wolfgang von Strucker had a falling out with Hitler, Red Skull sent Strucker to Japan to found the organization that would prepare the way for the takeovers in the Far East under the Skull's leadership. In the Far East, Strucker joined a subversive organization that came to be known as Hydra. Now, what was the name of that subversive organization? Wasn't it the Evil Hand?
No,
it was the Hand.
They partnered with the Hand.
Yes, it was a partnership.
Still here.
Okay.
And then Hydra is
still there. Okay, but when they went to the East,
they partnered with the Hand,
which created Hydra. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So he broke ties with the Skull and became the head of Hydra and built it in a significant threat to the world peace. Captain America and his teenage partner, Bucky Barnes, fought against and thwarted the Skull on many of his plans during that time of war, and their own operating members as the Invaders. We will talk about them later. The Skull was also responsible for forming the Liberty Legion, which he kidnapped and brainwashed the Invaders, but left Bucky behind, thinking him worthless. Bucky went on to gather a new team of heroes and foil the Skull's plot. During the final days of World War II in Europe, Captain America and Bucky were assigned to England to prevent Nazi efforts at sabotaging Allied supply bases there. The Skull sent a number of his subordinates who became known as the Exiles and the large contingent of loyal German soldiers and their wives to a secret base called Exile Island, where they would organize an army for the use of in the future. And now, isn't Exile Island the same island that Falcon and Red Wing went to? Huh, see how it comes full circle. Gotta love it. The two counterparts soon clashed, and what would be a series of engagements throughout the war, ending with a final battle that left the Skull buried under the rubble of a bomb building. He was immediately exposed to an experimental gas that remained, and it caused him into a suspended animation for decades. Johann was eventually rescued in modern times by the terrorist organization Hydra, and the Skull quickly subverted a Hydra cell to his ambitions of the world conquest and the death of Captain America. And that is Johann Schmidt, AKA the Red Skull.
All right, so real quick, I'm gonna talk about this next one. Because this next one is Arnim Zola.
So he is the guy we were talking about.
So Arnim Zola, real short, is his first appearance would have been Captain America number 208 in January of '77. Now, Arnim Zola was a Swiss scientist who worked for the Nazis during World War II and was the lead scientist of Project Nietzsche, who basically were trying to recreate super soldiers just like America. Now, Zola was also one of the first biochemists in history to use notes left behind by the deviants. And using this technology, he was able to transfer his consciousness into a robotic body, allowing him to continue his experiments well into the next century. Zola's association with the Red Skull led to his first fight against Captain America in the jungles of Central America, following Captain America's encounter with Arnim Zola's creation, Manfish. Now, Arnim Zola was real heavy into, I don't want to say gene splicing, but he was, like I said, he was trying to make the next super soldier. So he was splicing animals with men, and the Manfish was one of his creations that, if I remember correctly, and he got the beat down. He was kind of vicious, but Captain America finally got him. Now, if you look at the pictures in the slide, Arnim Zola in the MCU is basically, they don't have him, and I guess because of the idiotic nature of his comic book character. He's got a robotic body, his face shows in his torso, and then his head is just an array of sensors.
Yeah, sensors.
So in the comics, what they show, I mean, in the MCU, what they show is that he has basically infiltrated his computer system. He basically become like an AI, a human AI. So he lives within a computer screen, and not a robotic body. Now, that could come full circle though, in the MCU.
Yeah, because I believe in an episode of What If, they showed you what would happen if they actually put that sensor on a robotic body,
Right.
on a bunch of robotic bodies that he controls,
Right.
which is an excellent episode.
All right. So our next slide is Baron Blood, aka Lord John Falsworth. Now,
I'm sorry. Every time I look at this dude's costume, I'm like,
yeah,
you are not scary.
he's a vampire from the. Okay. So Invaders #7 is his first appearance, April 1976, and he looks like a disco.
Yeah.
Disco vampire, basically. So Lord John Falsworth was the youngest of two sons of Lord William Falsworth, one of the wealthiest members of the British aristocracy in late Victorian and Edwardian times. John left embittered when his older brother Montgomery inherited the title and the bulk of his estate upon William's death, shortly before World War I. Falsworth sought the Castle Dracula in Romania to find and control Dracula as a means of achieving immense wealth and power. However, Falsworth fell victim to Dracula's hypnotic powers and was turned into a vampire. Falsworth returned to England and wreaked havoc among the people. When World War I broke out, Falsworth, still intent on destroying England, offered his services to the German intelligence, who gave him the code name Baron Blood. Falsworth adopted his costume to instill terror in his victims, and he became the Germans' greatest secret weapon in the war's final months. He was finally found and fought by the costume hero, the original Union Jack, who was actually secretly Falsworth's elder brother, Montgomery. Union Jack injured Falsworth with a silver blade, causing him to flee England. After World War I, Falsworth studied occult arts and followed Adolf Hitler's rise to power. He understood Hitler and his Nazi party were similar to him. During World War II, German scientists performed painful experiments which enabled him to avoid his vulnerability to direct sunlight. German intelligence also sent Falsworth to England again during World War II to continue a new reign of terror. He returned home to possess his son to fool his family. His brother Montgomery, Union Jack, discovers that his nephew is his brother and a vampire after he nearly kills his daughter, Jackie, who later becomes the heroine Spitfire. Montgomery suits back up as Union Jack, and with the help of allied heroes, they hunt Falsworth. Falsworth was impaled when he fell on a stalagmite that had traces of silver in it. He was resurrected and joined the Super Axis forces and journeyed to America with Dracula. Falsworth encounters Captain America and Bucky in America, where Cap and Bucky defeat the pair, sending them into retreat. Falsworth was killed after the fall of the Reich. While escaping on a ship in the South China Sea, the ship was attacked by the Avengers. Craven the Hunter stabbed him in the chest with a silver-bladed wooden javelin. Although this did not kill him, it slowed him down, and a woman killed him with a wooden stake later on. He was later entombed in the Tower of London due to being an aristocrat.
So you could still be a traitor to your country and still be entombed.
Only in the country.
Yeah.
They would have burned him.
Because he was literally trying to ruin his own country. And that is Lord John Falsworth. And he has not shown up in the MCU.
Oh, no. I don't think
All right, next on our list is the elder of the von Strucker, Wolfgang von Struckers, and that is Baron. His first appearance was in Sergeant Fury #5 in November 1963. Baron Wolfgang von Strucker was born in the late 19th century to a Prussian noble family. Prussian version. Persian, yes. Noble family who relocated to Strucker Castle in Bavaria following the Franco-Prussian War. When Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany in the 1930s, von Strucker joined the Nazi Party. In 1936, he and Nicholas Geist, allied with the Egyptian mentalist Amal Farouk, aka the Shadow King. Where is that?
Stop.
Where is that?
Stop.
Okay.
The Shadow King is the main antagonist for Legion.
Oh, that's right.
The Shadow King is the mutant psychic that infested Legion's mind for so long.
Gotcha. Now, wasn't the Shadow King also the one who turned Storm? Found out who Storm? Didn't Storm like a group of mutants?
You got to remember the Shadow King. Basically, they're not saying it here because I mean
it's about
America. That end of the story, but this story goes on that this greatest foe is actually Charles Xavier in the comics.
Yeah, because I want to say he is, when Storm was, she lost her family, so she was kind of an orphan going around.
Yeah, that's who she was.
Yeah, working for. Yeah, she worked for the Shadow King. Look at that full circle. In an attempt to dispute the lineage of England's royal family and install a new king who would be sympathetic to their cause. As World War II started, Strucker rose through the ranks and became wing commander of the Death's Head Squadron. Strucker and Red Skull tried to invade the isolationist African nation of Wakanda during World War II in hopes of recovering some vibranium. Captain America teamed up with the chieftain, Black Panther, and the two heroes reluctantly worked together to expel invading forces. Now, I want to say that is T'Challa's father that he worked with. Yeah, that was a good series. It was written really well. I read that one actually. Sometime before 1941, Strucker created his personal paramilitary force, Hydra, keeping its information secret from Hitler and the Nazi Party. In 1941, Strucker was contacted by the cabal of ninjas known as the Hand, which had just broken a long-time agreement with the crime mastermind Romulus and wanted to form a new alliance. In order to gain the Hand's loyalty, Strucker approached and captured young Russian operative Natalia Romanoff, bringing her to Madripoor as a gift to the ninjas who were trying to turn the girl into the cabal's master assassin. However, Strucker was not aware that Natalia was secretly an agent of Romulus sent to kill the Jonan of Hand. Jonan? Okay. The Jonan of the Hand. While she was ready to accomplish her mission during the Master Assassin's ritual, Logan, another agent of Romulus, and Natalia's friend interrupted the ceremony and killed Jonan, avoiding making Natalia a killer again. Captain America and Ivan Petrovich helped Logan fight the Hand, and Strucker escaped in the battle's chaos. Later in 1941, Strucker conducted a secret Hydra operation in Tunisia, using another Nazi operation of the same place. After Captain America and his sidekick Bucky and Logan entered into Hydra's headquarters and kills a Strucker impersonator, the real Strucker's location was discovered by Logan, who then ordered by Seraph, a Madripoor agent of Romulus, not to kill him due to an agreement between him and Romulus. Captured by the U.S. Army, Strucker was later freed by Logan and later rescued by his Nazi ally Baron Heinrich Zemo. You see, these names are too familiar, like they're too close. And they arrived in Tunisia and with supporting troops. I'm gonna let you pick up after this.
So as now, Strucker had also joined the Thule Society, which was another secret society at the time. And as the Thule Society's leader, he actually worked in 1944 with Dr. Geist to create an army of super soldiers. This project, named the Infinitus Agenda, continued also after the Thule Society was absorbed into the modern Hydra. In 1944, Strucker encountered the Nobians, a benevolent race of empathic extraterrestrials who had crashed near Broomstack. Realizing that their technology, what their technology could do for Hydra, Strucker befriended the naive creatures and killed the population of Broomstack to cover his tracks. The Howlers, the Howling Commandos, arrived too late to prevent the tragedy, but fatally wounded Strucker. The Nobians healed Strucker with their powers, but they went insane from absorbing some of his hate-filled psyche in the process. Strucker fled their crashed ship, taking disc of their information to his scientists. In 1945, as the Reich failed, Strucker placed Master Man and Warrior Woman under suspended animation, trying to preserve them for the future. He also preserved the Red Skull when he was buried alive in his bunker after battle against Captain America. So he basically
He was the one who said,
assets
yeah.
and was freezing.
Yeah.
All right. Since Hydra needed more finances, Strucker abducted Gabby Holler, who had a map leading to a fortune in lost Nazi gold hidden within her mind. But Holler, who is Legion's mom, was defended by her friends, the mutants Charles Xavier and Eric Magnus. But Magnus took the gold for his own purposes.
Of course he did.
That's Magneto. Now, a Satanist and the fourth richest person in the world, Esbeth von Strucker, married Strucker and started funding Hydra in 1957, seemingly incorporating her own agenda, basically based on some weird concept of some entities called the sickly ones, who had basically were waiting for a chosen one for almost 4 billion years to release them from their captivity. Now, those were his wife's motives. So in the comics, you start getting, it now becomes where you start getting this, the metaphysical side of Hydra and everything coming in. Like, remember, she's a Satanist.
Yeah.
And
so you got that horror side.
And the Nazi party was already dealing in the occult.
Yes, they were.
And it was after he married Elsbeth von Strucker that he then reorganized and began to diversify Hydra, repositioning the organization towards global domination. And that's Baron Wolfgang von Strucker.
Oh, right.
King Hydra.
And next on the list is Baron Heinrich Zemo.
No, he's the elder.
He's the elder. Yes. This guy who looks like a mix between He-Man and Skeletor, was first appearance was in Avengers #4 in January 1964 as a flashback. Then the next full appearance is in Avengers #6 in May of 1964. And his death was in Avengers #15 in February 1965. He had a short run. Baron Zemo, he's a doctor. Dr. Zemo was the 12th Baron of the Baron Zemo and his family. His family pledged to his loyalty and service to the German Empire in return for the castle of Zemo and the land they would pass to their heirs. He became a scientist working for the Nazis during World War II. His hood was permanently affixed to his head due to immersion in the adhesive X. While in Austria, Zemo captured and dissected the first Human Torch to learn the source of his power. He used his artificial DNA to create his own army of Inhuman Torches. He sent the squad to attack the invaders. The time-traveling Thunderbolts helped defeat the creatures by trapping them under the snowfall and tearing them apart. They then went to rescue the torch and destroyed Zemo's lab. Zemo led many missions of sabotage and terror against the Allies and often clashing with Captain America. He escaped to South America following the war to continue his experiments. He survived to modern age, forming the Masters of Evil, a team of villains created to take down the Avengers, but which ultimately failed and led to his death. And that is Dr. Zemo.
Next up, we have his son, Baron Helmut Zemo. First appearance, Captain America #168, September of '73. Now, Baron Helmut Zemo was the 13th Baron Zemo, a title of German nobility. His family pledged his loyalty and service to the German Empire in return for the same castle that they could pass to their heirs. So following the death of his father, he took up the title. He too was disfigured by adhesive X and forced to don a mask much like his father's.
I'm sorry. If his daddy was playing with adhesive X.
Well, what happened, it was a lab, like they had the adhesive X in a lab. He got into a fight. I can't remember if it was Captain America or another hero, but he got basically how the Joker came about is how the original Baron Zemo came about. He got tossed. He had on his hood to conceal his identity, but he got thrown into the vat, and it basically stuck to his face, and he could never take it off.
But Baby Boy.
Should have known. No. Baby Boy actually wore a ski mask. Yeah. But the family was still producing adhesive X because it was part of the something they used, and he also got.
Yeah, I just would never go around adhesive X.
Right, not with none on the face. All right, so after he learned of his father's death, Helmut, now an engineer and strategist himself, blamed Captain America and adopted the guise of the Phoenix to kill him in revenge. Now, Zemo was defeated, however, falling in a vat of adhesive X, horribly disfiguring him and affixing his
to his face.
All right.
Yes.
And enough of them. Sorry. Let's get on to the team. Let's wrap this up.
All right. First on the list is the Avengers, who showed up in July of 1963 in Avengers #1. Thor confronted Loki and exposed his scheme to the other heroes because Thor and Loki had come to Earth and tricked Hulk into destroying New York. But Thor exposes him, and with Loki defeated and captured, the group agreed to work together. This is the original group of Wasp, Ant-Man, Hulk, Iron Man, and Thor. You know, I feel like Wasp should be around more in the MCU because she is an actual major. As I was doing my research on Captain America, she is actually one of his
Right.
Top 10 allies.
Her connection to Hank Pym,
is
the reason why they have kept her separate in the
MCU. Yeah, I know. But that also in the Avengers too, because her and Hank were constantly.
Remember, if they had brought her in the MCU, we're speaking of MCU because she's always been around in the comics. If they had introduced her in the first Avengers or the first Captain America.
Gotcha.
They would have had to give you Hank Pym. Yeah. And I think they wanted his age. They didn't want him to be as old as Iron Man's daddy.
Yeah, which he was. Gotcha. So following a fight against the Avengers, the Atlantean prince Namor unleashed a block of ice containing a figure under the North Sea, which the Avengers then found. Within it lay the legendary hero Captain America in suspended animation, frozen in ice since the end of World War II. A born leader, the Star-Spangled Myth was eventually given retroactive founding member status in place of the Hulk and being seen as the heart and soul of the Avengers. And so
So just know that the Incredible Hulk was also one of the original Avengers.
He was, yes.
But, he went crazy.
Yeah, he did. I thought I mentioned it, but
well, if you look up there in the little thing of the comic, you see his face up there in the little corner where it shows all the characters. All right. So next up, we have the Invaders. Now, their first appearance was Avengers #71, December of '69. And this is when Captain America, his sidekick Bucky, the original android Human Torch, and the Torch's sidekick Toro, and Namor the Submariner joined together as heroes to oppose the forces of Nazism. Even after having to level and kill an entire village in the Netherlands because of a monstrous plague, this team continued to fight against several threats and faced emotional trauma in the end, with the apparent deaths of Captain America and Bucky in the drone aircraft explosion near the end of World War II, where Captain America was basically frozen in ice, and Bucky was captured by the Russians
and became the Winter Soldier.
Yes.
And next on our list is Shield. First appearance, Strange Tales number 135 in May of 1965. In 1960, American businessman and weapons manufacturer Howard Stark, a member and agent of the Brotherhood of Shield, started elaborating the idea of a secret counterterrorism espionage organization devoted to protecting the world from several worldwide threats. Since the early days of S.H.I.E.L.D., though, Fury has maintained close ties to groups like the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, with individuals like Captain America, Black Widow, and Wolverine ensuring that talented and varied pool of special operatives were ready and available. So basically, they funneled people to them. But they were seen as great team leads.
Now, this is one of those real world organizations that filters into the comics just for the sake of the comics, but notice that back in the day, the comics the Army used the comics as a promotional tool.
Yep, and entertainment that they sent to their troops.
So actually, the U.S. Army showed up in the comics first in Daring Mystery Comics #1 in October of '39. Now, by the end of 1941, the U.S. military began Project Rebirth, which created the super soldier serum that turned Steve Rogers into Captain America. Throughout the war, Cap and his partner Bucky Barnes fought alongside infantry and with a group of heroes known as the Invaders. In '43, the U.S. government forcibly recruits 300 African-American soldiers to serve as test subjects to recreate the super soldier serum. However, only one man survived the gruesome process, and his name is Isaiah Bradley. And he would later he would actually serve as Captain America when Captain America falls into the ice, but the U.S. Army has shaded over his story. And I do believe this story was brought forth in the, I want to say that it was that Captain America run where Sam Wilson first gets the thing, and they go back and they tell his story. Okay, so in 1945, the closing months of World War II, Captain America and Bucky were both presumed dead in an explosion. Later in '45 was when the U.S. dropped the 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which led to Japan's surrender. Now, remember when I said in the beginning, look at that first Avengers panel. You don't have to go back to it, but that first Avengers panel or Captain America panel where he's actually slapping a Nazi. That was March of
41.
Was it 45 or
41? Just before
Well,
Pearl Harbor.
by December
45.
No, didn't Pearl Harbor happen in 47 or 45?
41.
41? Okay, I got nothing. But in that December, this is where they went. So now he's not slapping Hitler. He's slapping a Japanese general. Said, you started it now, we'll finish it. So you see where Captain America was used as a rallying point for the United States Armed Forces.
I think this is around the only time that Timely starts to outsell DC and Superman, because when we entered World War II as the United States, then this is when Timely starts to outsell DC. And everybody has to enter the war, because now DC has to enter, where DC never entered before, because they felt that the real heroes needed to be the soldiers that were out there on the front. But when Captain America entered, they had to change their stance. So Wonder Woman, Superman are out there battling. Not so much Batman.
No. See, Trevor, I'm just saying it's Wonder Woman.
Yeah, but I'm saying, Wonder Woman is battling Axis forces. Superman is battling Axis forces. Like, those characters then started showing up and jumping on actual real people in comics. So that was all because of this guy right here, because Timely knew, why are we not using the real villains.
I actually put in there 2 different advertisement that they used. One was an actual poster, and that's the one in the middle where it says, "I want you for the U.S. Army," and the one below it was actually the panel that they would put in the comic books, in the
About the
actual
war
comic
stamps,
books.
yeah. Yeah. And guys, that is all we have for Captain America today. If you would like to do your own research, please pause and get some of our stuff that we got it from. And do know that we also have the same comic books that we've mentioned throughout in the actual branch. Another cool thing about Isaiah Bradley is his grandson is a young Avenger. So, and if you can't find it in print, you can always find it on Comics Plus. You can borrow, read thousands of digital comics, graphic novels, and mangas from Clayton County Library System with your library card. So there's no holes, no waiting, and you can download the title to your smartphone or tablet or computer. So just sign up today. And we guys, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. We will be covering DC's Black Adam. As you know, DC is about to release this with The Rock playing Black Adam. And so, and we also have another Shazam movie coming out, I think in December too. And he ties into the Shazam family.
DC's evil good dude.
Yeah, he's not good and he's not bad. He's all about taking care of his people though. So we will see you guys on July 19th to cover Black Adam.